So good evening, everyone. Hello, hello, and welcome, welcome, welcome to Cosmic Conversations. I'm your host, Sheila Seppi, and I'd like to thank all of you for joining us. Everybody that's here in our audience, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Everybody that's watching out on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe. But everybody that's on Facebook, or if you're watching on Roku, Amazon, Apple TV, thank you so much for joining us. Or if you're on the Awake and Ascending platform through Clubhouse that Miss Beautiful Bridget Renee Holiday brings to us. Thank you guys so much for being here as well. Before I introduce our speaker tonight, one of the things that I would like to do is to go ahead and to share my screen, because I want to show you some pretty cool things that are coming up. So here we go. I think. All right. Hey, there's a lot going on my screen. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So the first thing I want to talk with everyone about is the upcoming Portal to Ascension conference. Now, for the last several years, we've had several conferences, but they've all been virtual conferences, and it's super cool that we can all get together from around the world this way. However, it's also really cool when we can get together and hug each other. And so we've got this big conference coming up April 21st, 22nd, 23rd in San Diego. If you can join us, please be there. Actually, we are one of the sponsors of this. So if you are a Cosmic Conversations watcher, please join us there. We'd love to have you to come by. I also want to point out we have a couple new hosts who have joined us through the Conscious Awakening Network. And I want to just quickly run down through here. We have Danielle Lipton. So please visit the Conscious Awakening Network and check out some of her videos, as well as we have Melanie. And so I don't know if Melanie's on here with us tonight, but we've started getting some of Melanie's things up. So please check her out as well. And of course, we've got some of Bridget's, and we've got obviously some of the Galactic Alliance stuff up. But we also, if someone could please go on to mute. Thank you. So we also have in our series, we have a new look to the pages. So now all you have to do is go and to click on whoever it is that you want to watch, and all of their videos will start to pop up. And we're transitioning over to that style in the next couple of months as well. And here we have our topic section. So you can see we have tons of video. We've got hundreds of hours. We're just starting. We've only been around for since the middle of October. And so we're already really growing quickly. We have several thousand that are watching us, whether it's on Facebook or on YouTube, whatever the various platforms are. And so we have quite a few people that's joining us, and we have quite a few people here in the audience. So thank you guys so much for being here. And I'm going to go ahead and get started with our introductions, because we have a phenomenal speaker with us tonight. Now, I don't know if you guys have met him before, or maybe you heard him on one of our recent programs that we did. I think it was in January, through the Portal to Ascension. But I want to invite everyone to now join me as you learn a little bit more about VerDarLuz. And what he has done is simply amazing to me, because he totally transformed his life. As a young person, I think it was like the age of 17, he had a double lung collapse. And he then committed himself that he was going to seize the day, and he was going to take a deep dive into life. And so he is a traveler to more than 45 countries. He's authored 2 books, Codex of the Soul and The Aquarius Dawns. And he's the creator of the Divine Timing Online online school. Now, he also uniquely blends all of his systems of self-awareness, such as astrology, human design, and the shamanic therapies, into a holistic life and business coaching practice. He teaches entrepreneurs, families, and couples how to honor and integrate their core patterns and archetypes. He also empowers clients to help themselves strategize the when and where of life. And so tonight he's going to talk with us a little bit about the path of the mystic and teachings in non-dualities. We're going to hear a little bit about the StarSeed astrology and human design. And so VerDarLuz, I want to go ahead and to bring you up. And we are so excited to have you with us tonight. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a really beautiful intro. It's really an honor to be here. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to just turn the program over to you, and I'm just going to step away. So it's all yours, my friend.
Wonderful. Well, just again, want to welcome everyone here tonight. It's been a beautiful week. As some of you know, we had a full moon in Virgo this week. And it's always a time of the year, very special time during this season when it's the last month of the astrological year. And it's that Pisces time. And our spirits really have the ability to weave into the fabric of the one consciousness. And that's why I wanted to share about the path of the mystic tonight. It's also a training that I have coming up. I'm very excited about. But mysticism is, you know, it's kind of a mystifying term to a lot of people. So what does it mean? Well, every religious tradition has had, you know, mystical pathways associated with it. And what makes mysticism different than religion is that it's really about what we call Gnostic or direct experiences. And those experiences are that direct knowing who we truly are, who we are as a spark of that God flame, you know, and we can call that by so many names. And that's why in, you know, all of the mystical and spiritual traditions, we have this core essential teaching that is always the same, really, but the languages are a little bit different because the great compassionate God, you know, realized that all these different beings were going to need different pathways to really return to the same source. And that's the beauty of religion. We always talk about, you know, often how religion can be divisive, but actually the beauty is to be able to gather us. And the word religion has a lot to do with like the word yoga. It actually means to kind of yoke back or return us into something greater than ourselves. And that's what we do during the Piscean season is we let go of that sort of egoic nature more, and we come back home to our soul essence, our spiritual essence as one being. So non-duality is a state of awareness that, well, we could argue that it's what is, but we can also just say that in our consciousness, you know, being non-dual in our awareness is a recognition state. It's recognizing that you know, underlying all of this apparent multiplicity is this single infinite beingness, right? And it's indivisible, like everything is interconnected to everything else. And it's really pure consciousness. In the Shaiva Tantra tradition, or Kashmir Shaivism, which was really, you know, this flowering of consciousness during about the years like 1000, 1100, around that time in Kashmir, northern India, we had all of these sages actually being supported by the government, by the royalty, because the royalty wanted to essentially like lead or rule in kind of enlightened states, right? Imagine that. And so we have this royalty that is actually saying, okay, you are a shaman, or you are a teacher, you're a guru, please go and meditate and receive and channel and transcribe for us. And so you have these texts called the tantras. And in Tantra, the word means actually to weave together. So the Tantras are all written scripts. Now, Tantra practice today is more neo-tantra. It's more sacred sexuality often, but it's actually based in this non-dual teachings that came through these wise masters. And mostly the tantras are actually coming as dialogues between Shiva and Shakti. And what that is awareness in its pure form that is speaking to, so that's Shiva, that is instructing Shakti, who's always this sort of devoted, like, help me, Lord, help me understand reality. She's this devoted servant, and she's also his lover, right? And so you have a great text like the Vijnana Bhairava, and in that text, Shiva is offering Shakti all of these practices, these dharanas, these concentrative practices. Some of them are very simple. Some of them are more yogic and complicated in terms of how to work with the breath. But essentially, for wherever you are, what station you are in your life, 1 or 2 or 10 of these dharanas will support you. And the texts say that you only need to do one, right? You might be an adept yogi and be able to do many of these practices and meditations, but you only really need to do one to realize God consciousness. And so we have this idea that Shiva is this pure awareness that we all have. And Shakti is the dance of consciousness in form, in manifestation. And what the texts talk about again and again, whatever tantric text you're looking at, is that really nowhere can I look or hear or sense or think or feel where Shiva or the Supreme, the Supreme Lord, God, is not. There's nowhere I can do anything where that God is not. And this is really non-duality. It's the ability to walk through our days in a state of awareness that everything that we experience is being experienced through us. And there are powers that are beyond this flesh suit being that we're in, that are actually animating all of these abilities. And so I want to start with the meditation here with you, if we could do that for just a few minutes. And this is a really sort of core tantric meditation we'll do. And then we'll talk a little bit more about some of these other traditions. So I want to invite you to close your eyes. If you could get into a comfortable position where you're sitting straight with your spine erect. The Sushumna Nadi is this channel, the central channel in the center of our being, of our light body. And so the straighter that we sit, the more that we can open that central channel, not only to the earth below to ground us and support us, but also to Father Sky, to the heavens, and to our supreme consciousness above in the 7th chakra. So when we take our breath, let's take our breath down from the heavens and let it enter the heart. And I want to invite you to place one hand on your heart. And just tuning into the breath for a moment and noticing as you breathe into the heart that you are being breathed. And as the tantrics would say, you're being breathed by Hridaya, which is the great heart, the supreme heart at the center of the universe. Just really tuning in right now to that sense that I'm actually not breathing, but I'm being breathed. And I'm not beating my own heart, it's beating through me. Some other great force, some source is beating that for me, really. Even the words that I'm hearing now, there's something deeper inside of me that is sensing those words. He has the ability to hear, or the ability to look and see the screen before us, or to feel the touch, the fabric on our skin. What is it that has the ability to witness that? Let's tune into that witness for a moment. And if a thought takes you somewhere else, then let's offer that thought to that divine source. Or maybe there's an emotion that rises or a feeling state, and you can offer that as well. And all of the texts talk about the importance of having a personal relationship with the divine. And there's so many beautiful ways to do that. So as you make an offering, what is that being that calls to you? Is it Mother Mary? Is it Krishna? Is it Christ? Is it Buddha? Is it one of the names of Allah? Is it an angel? Is it a guide? Is it an animal spirit? We can offer that emotion or sensation or thought to that which yokes us in this devotional yoga and this offering yoga back to our source. And so this is the medicine of walking through our days, interacting with those we don't know or our friends and our family. And of course, often it's our family that trigger us the most and we have the most reaction to. And could we take the same energy of offering a reactive state or a triggered state, anger or an upset, maybe a fear that rises, can we offer that up? And in offering, not be so identified with that emotion or that thought. So it's almost like we're giving back to the source, to the great giver, the all giver. It's called Al-Wahhab, in one of the names of Allah, the 99 names of Allah, the great giver, the giver of everything. All of this has been given to us. So we can give back that emotion or that thought or that feeling or that sensation as an offering. And if we can do this as a practice every day, throughout our day, and essentially we are in this merged, constantly connected state of divine consciousness and non-duality. And this is what the mystics, the enlightened ones, the sages, some of the great poets throughout time, this is what they've practiced. And so I want to share a poem with you before we come out of this meditation. It's called Subhana Allah, God the Glorious. Shiva, you are first flame creator. Om Namah Shivaya, Almighty Maker. Om Namah Shivaya, you are the fire and the holy destroyer. And these are my lungs, but Krishna, you breathe a note from your flute, the dancing poetry of me. Nafas Ramani, into your compassion, seeking to be known, thus birthing my being. Until the body from which you will disrobe me, that I may cleave to your breast with a flute song of devotional subtlety and suck the nectar of your immortality in even more refined worship of your totality, our praise of unanimity. Weighed by Ma'at, my heart, the one you are beating, I offer my sacred awareness to you, Vishnu, the preserver, the same you, Al-Razak, the sustainer. You are the artery bleeding and the vein ever dreaming, and I rest in the central channel. Pause, the Sushumna Nadi, and in the empty vessel echo the mantras of your revealing. For Osiris, I am already your heavenly Horus son, giving the treasure of Elysium, To every traveler who meets my eyes, an invitation to remember your daughter, the gift we call dawn, and every knee that kisses Gaia's mossy fur, and every forehead bowed, you are Al-Wahhab, the endless giver, the most generous, the all-provider. You are Al-Wahhab, the endless giver, the most generous, the all-provider. Om Mahalakshmi Namaha. Your desire to be known as Indra's gems of beauty, your jeweled net of voluptuous abundance, so omni-encompassing as to exhale us all and dance your human children back home through the field of reeds, guided by the sheikh, by the Sufi, by the song of poetry. And I am your delicate tranquility, carried upon the Holy Spirit's wings. And I am lifted by the prophets as your dove of feathered peace. So let's just take a breath back into the heart and let that settle for a moment and see what's moving inside of you. If you feel called and you want to take a moment and write down a line, maybe something you heard or something that maybe opened a door or connected with something deep inside of you, take a moment to do that. And then we'll come back and share with the group if we like. One of the works that I've studied over the years that I'm going to be sharing in this upcoming training is about writing down the soul. And why I love this work so much is that it honors that each of us has this inner wisdom, right? This essential self that we've been talking about that we can access if we stop, if we pause, and we invite ourselves to speak with that different, deep part of ourselves. And you really just start writing and you say, dear soul, what do you want? What do you want to share with me today? Or what is that emotion about that I was feeling? And you get very curious. And as you practice like this, you are actually practicing more of that witness state. And any of our yogic practices or meditation practices or qigong or mindfulness practices are helping to, lift the veils that our society and ourselves continue to put up about who we think we are. A Course in Miracles is teaching a lot that, the thinking of the world, says the Course, is the thinking of separation. It's the ego's thinking, but it's not how God thinks. It's not how our source thinks. It thinks of all of us as one, right? And there's this beautiful part of A Course in Miracles called the Song of Prayer, which is all about how essentially each of us are instruments in this divine orchestra that is never repeating and is ever unfolding this majestic, symphonic tapestry of sound and vibration. And I'm a musician, so I love this text, but our practices, including writing, when we can witness ourselves and when we can get into a poetic state, the great masters like Rumi and Hafez and some of the Christian mystics, when we read their poetry, and they were very purified, right? They were emptied out in a way to really receive God's spirit and then communicate that through. And it's really a testament to a transit astrologically that we're having now. And this is a big shift for all of us. And it's Saturn moving into Pisces. And this just happened 2 days ago, and this will be with us for the next 2.5 years. And this is a very different kind of energy than we've been in for the last 5 years, because Saturn has been in his home signs of Capricorn and Aquarius for 5 years. That means Saturn ideals have been very strong and very obvious and exhibited in our world. What are those ideals? Well, they're a lot about, rules and regulations, governance, right? It's been at the forefront of all of our lives, especially under COVID, being controlled in ways probably none of us ever have before collectively. That is one aspect of Saturn. But there's a sense of increased pressure, right? And sort of group human responsibility that we've had during Saturn moving through Aquarius the last 2.5 years. We've become very aware of the interconnectedness of the planet. And this will continue in Saturn and Pisces. But what now has to happen is that Saturn moves into this soft and watery position. He's been in this air sign, and then he was in an earth sign, but he's in this last sign of the zodiac, which is the sign where our dreams live and the spirit lives and the ancestral realm lives, Pisces. It's where the imagination percolates and we dream up stories and mythologies, and we learn how to pray, and we are in our receptive channels. And so this is a very odd position for Saturn, because Saturn likes structure, and systems and ambition, right? And Pisces is a lot about being and receiving. And so what we are coming to do here collectively in the next couple of years is to learn how to actually discipline ourselves at integrating our spiritual practices, our awareness of non-duality, our mindfulness, our connection with deities, divinity, however we want to thread or yoke ourselves back to the divine, but as a disciplined practice. Saturn is about discipline, and it's actually about putting some responsibility of ourselves onto, integrating our imagination, the spirit world, and the medicine of all these great spiritual teachings. And so we want to allow ourselves, sorry, somebody's not muted. Yeah. I think, Sheila, you can mute everyone, but so we want to invite a daily practice, whether that's through, you might be a painter or a poet or a dancer, so the arts, or you are studying one of these texts like the Bhagavad Gita or Course in Miracles, but you're bringing this into your daily life and letting it infuse the relationships and every experience that we're having. There's another transit that's happening that I want to talk to you about that is really, really powerful. And it's probably my favorite transit of the year. And it's related to these two forces, one called Jupiter and the other Chiron. And Chiron, I wrote my second book about Chiron. It's right here. It's Aquarius Dawns, the Shamanic Artist and the Rise of the Wounded Healer. So I want to talk to you about who Chiron is and why this transit is so important for awakening each one of us as a mentor or a guide or a coach for the entire planet. This Chiron in astrology and in astronomy, Chiron is like an asteroid and a planet. It's a planetoid is what it's called. And its very makeup physically represents what it is symbolically in the mythology. So let me explain that. So it's kind of like it moves in this 50-year orbit, but sometimes it's very erratic in its orbit, and it's between Jupiter and where Saturn is. So we don't really see it. It's like outside the asteroid belt. It's like, yeah, it's sort of faint. It's kind of popping in and out of realities. It's very much a world bridger kind of energy. And this is fascinating because everyone will experience a Chiron return when you're 49 to 50. So if you've passed that point, if you're at that point, you're going to go through this experience I'm talking about tonight around this wounding and healing journey that Chiron represents. Chiron was born out of this tryst or this love affair between the god Kronos, or Saturn, god of time that we've been talking about, and a sea nymph. And her name was Philra. So they have this affair and they turn into horses so they don't get caught. And so then she gets pregnant and she has this child. which becomes Chiron. And he is abandoned by both his mother and his father. And so this becomes the first story that we know of in Western history of the orphan. And it's the archetype that basically, if you watch any film today, whether it's Harry Potter or most films, there's usually the theme of the orphan. And it's really originating with Chiron. So here he is abandoned because he's told he's too ugly for his mother. Kronos doesn't want to get caught by his wife. So they abandon him to this tree, and Apollo finds him there, the god of light and order and poetry and healing. And he kind of teaches him how to teach himself. He gives him like the ability to instruct himself, to care for himself. And so Chiron becomes known as this kind of great healer, herbalist. He's the first astrologer, astronomer, but he's kind of not one thing or another. He's a centaur. So he's half horse, he's half human, but he's also a god. And he's born of this sea nymph. So he has this also like nymphic quality, right? That there's nymphs of water and air, and he's in between all the worlds. And this is really significant because what Chiron does in the story is that he's teaching the great heroes like Hercules and Achilles. He's teaching these heroes who are obviously going to hurt others. They're going to wound them. But he's also teaching healers. He teaches the great god Asclepius, who we get the Asclepion, which were the first healing sanctuaries or hospitals in the world, at least in the Western world. There's still something you can visit, like in Greece and Epidaurus. There's many of these ancient hospitals. They were dream healing sanctuaries dedicated to Asclepius. So Chiron is the teacher of Asclepius. So this is fascinating because he's teaching how to wound and how to heal. And then in the story, he's in the line of fire in this skirmish between the humans and the centaurs. And he gets wounded accidentally, but of course on purpose, right, as we know, by his own student, which is Hercules. He gets shot in the leg. And since he's an immortal, he has an immortal wound. And this is really significant because wherever Chiron is in your birth chart, it represents the part of you that feels like it's immortally wounded, or the part of us that feels like it's victimized, or that keeps itself thinking that it's separate. So this is one of the most important places, I believe, astrologically, to enter into non-duality. And the way that we do that is to recognize that our wound is our sacred gift. Because wherever we've hurt, where we felt separate, we tend to put a magnifying glass there. We put a lot of attention there and energy there. And so then we can actually become very adept at growing healing capacity there. And so wherever Chiron is in your chart, you learn that this is where you could separate, or you can choose to return and then devote yourself through karma yoga, which we'll talk about more in the Bhagavad Gita. Through karma yoga, through service, you give back to others. And this is how you essentially feed this ever blossoming tree of life we call non-duality. And so Chiron is such a significant force. And I'll just finish the story by sharing that Prometheus, you might know, he was chained to the rock by Zeus because Prometheus was stealing fire from the Olympian gods and giving it to humanity, essentially unleashing the power of the gods to humanity. It's a metaphor for technology and innovation. But what happens in the story is that the only way that Prometheus will be unchained, let go, essentially that humanity will get the powers of the gods, is if an immortal gives up their immortality for Prometheus. And there's an immortal that does this, and it's Chiron, because he recognizes that he has this wound, but he can give it up in service of humanity. But he will die. And we all know that we will die. But along the way, we have to offer ourselves. And this is the yoga of devotion that Krishna teaches Arjuna in the great text, the Bhagavad Gita. It's how do we act every day of our life And in this case, Arjuna is a warrior and he doesn't want to kill people, but he's being told, you must fulfill your duty because you're not really killing anything. I am doing everything through you always and through everyone always. This is the great instruction of Krishna. There's only one doer, but not to anyone. and this is, again, the non-dual reflection of the Gita. So Chiron is turned into, upon his death, he's turned into the constellation of Centaurus or Sagittarius, two centaurs in the sky. And Chiron is turned into that constellation by Zeus because of his great works to humanity. So he's made immortal again, which is to say that all of us, as we offer ourselves, as we recognize our wound, we offer that back as our path of service, helping people who may have hurt similarly to us. As we do that, we return to the eternal. We return to God or Krishna or Allah or whatever force we call it in that act of service. So I want to take a pause for a moment and see if anyone has any questions or reflections, or you want to share a line of the poetry. Or how is this landing for you with Chiron?
Okay. Does anyone have a question? Do they want to share anything that came up for them during the meditation? All right. I guess they're wanting more, my friend.
So the reason I share all this again is that Jupiter this month in the sign of Aries is transiting, is coming into direct contact with Chiron. Now, this will only happen about every 13 years or so. And so Jupiter always amplifies and expands and grows and brings this sort of sense of abundance and bounty and generosity to whatever planet he touches. And so this archetype that we've been talking about of the wounded healer, of the shaman, of the medicine keeper, right? Of the mentor, the coach, everything that Chiron represents is getting this huge expansive growth from Jupiter. And both of these archetypes, both of these planets are teachers. Jupiter is known as the guru in Vedic astrology. So this is a massive month for us to be in expanding our consciousness, also because we have a lot of planets in Pisces. And I really believe that it's sort of a pivot point collectively for us, and an invitation for all of us to step up and upgrade our mentorship and coaching and guidance in the world. It's for this reason that I'm offering this teaching Path of the Mystics, this ongoing training, which I'll share more about at the end. But I want to share this really interesting correspondence that these different traditions have around being we might call it a teacher of God, which is what the Course in Miracles calls it. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about the virtues of a yogi, or one who has devoted themselves to God, right? And these qualities, or these characteristics of the devotee or the teacher of God are also actually these attributes that we call the 99 names of Allah in Sufism, mystical Islam, or in Islam. They're actually like these fingers of God, that they're expressions. One of them would be as-sabur, which is the patient one. Right? Now that's interesting, because the patient one, patience is one of the qualities or characteristics that the Course in Miracles lists in the manual for teachers as a core characteristic of a teacher of God, is patience. Right? It's also a name of God. And this is also something that Krishna refers to. Right? And so let me list for you these qualities of the teachers of God according to A Course in Miracles. Honesty, tolerance, gentleness, joy, defenselessness, generosity, patience, faithlessness, and open-mindedness. And it could be a beautiful, way to express, your soul's relationships to the divine, and your ability to be a teacher by writing about each one of these, these different states. And what is my relationship to honesty? How has that changed over time? Or tolerance, right? What am I still intolerant of? Okay, that's keeping me separate from my role as a mentor, teacher of God. Or am I still defensive in certain ways? Because we said here, defenselessness. Well, defense means there's another. So I'm still in a separated consciousness. Right? And so each of these can be, and there's great, beautiful explanations in the manual for teachers as part of A Course in Miracles. If you're not familiar with A Course in Miracles, it is, I believe, an upgraded, updated version of non-dual teachings for all of us, and it elucidates so much of the ego and its desire to separate, and it contrasts that to the Holy Spirit, which is our innate desire to return home, to return to God. And it emphasizes again and again that God, the perfect creator, and it uses the language of Christianity because it's also repatterning some of the mistakes of Christianity over time. So it works with the Spirit of Christ. And it's such a beautiful text, but there's essential teaching that God made us perfect because he is the perfect creator. And it's only in our own judgments that we have these stories that we're not enough, or that certain things should be certain ways. But one of the things as the teachers of God can't do is that they can't judge, because you'd have to know everything about everyone at all times in order to make an honest judgment. And none of us can do that. So there's only one righteous judge who knows all. So I'll share this little teaching here, that one of the great parts of the course is showing that without trust, nothing else can exist. No other qualities or attributes can really grow, because it's all built on trust. And the course says, first, the teachers of God must go through a period of undoing. It says this need not be painful, but it usually is. It seems as things are being taken away from us, and it's rarely understood initially that their lack of value is merely being recognized. Their lack of value is being recognized. So what's happening a lot of times, a lot of us, right, we've been through these experiences, and this might happen in a peak way, in some way, during this Jupiter-Chiron conjunction, that things are taken away, like even precious things, the things most important to us, a relationship or where we live, or a family member dies, or something really core. And it's a question of our ability to trust that moment, that God's will is perfect for me and is perfect for my own salvation or my own return back home, right? And so this teaching of the course is it's really an instruction manual on how to, again, give every moment back to God, back to the Holy Spirit, and to be gentle with ourselves. And it's been hard to do that over the last few years. And I would say that I want to express that, I've worked many years as a shamanic practitioner, and I guess it's been about 2 decades that I've been working with different plant medicines and different teachers as well. And I have worked with those in sort of parallel with different meditation practices, these different pathways, studied in India and Peru and other places. And what I found through some of the peak experiences, especially with the medicine that I work with and I support people with, it's called FiveMeo DMT. This medicine, you might know that DMT is released from our pineal gland, which has been called the seat of the soul. And it is, Aristotle talked about it, but the pineal gland actually releases DMT when we're born and when we die. And that's why it's called the spirit molecule. There's been a lot of research into this, and even in clinical studies, that some of the brain maps around people in, under a DMT experience are similar to Tibetan monks in their deep moments of meditation. And so it's like parts of the brain that, we use as like flight or fight or, fear responses, those all shut down. And all these other parts of the brain get activated, which have a lot to do with imagination and the spirit. And I share this because a lot of the experiences that I've had and some of the people I've worked with, it takes us right into the heart of the source, into the heart of non-duality. We no longer experience ourselves as separate, as there's no I reference when you smoke this medicine, when you inhale it. There's no outside I. You are just being pulsed and breathed in this very profound and deep, intimate lovemaking with the divine. But it's like you're being made in that moment and you are it, right? And so different shamans in the shamanic pathway has been to often work with plant medicines, but also breath work, which is very popular now, as ways, as modalities for us to again to return to source. And there's so many beautiful ways of doing this: studying scripture, being immersed in your poetry or your dance or your art, and letting spirit move through you, working with the plant medicines, meditation. So this is a little bit of what I wanted to share with you. There's so much here, but maybe I can mention now about the path of the mystic too, if you want to learn more. And if there's any questions, I'd love to share. I don't want to take too much time for people, but yeah, it's just been beautiful to share these teachings with you tonight.
If you could maybe talk with us just a little bit about your course, The
Yeah.
Path of the Mystic, and then we'll open it up for a few questions.
I also just realized that I didn't really talk about human design tonight because there's so much to talk about, but the human design system is another incredible tool. Like astrology, it's based on your birth date, time, and place, and it has a body graph with 9 energy centers. And this, without going too deep, I just want to mention that this is another tool, like I believe astrology can be used as a way for us to understand our soul's codes. And essentially, when we translate astrology or human design or numerology, we're really tuning into the higher, let's call it the higher self, which the ancients called the daimon, the higher self, the guiding spirit. And we're able to see that we have patterns, we have archetypes that we've been given, we have proportions of that, the God spark. And if we can understand the patterns and we can learn how to integrate them, then we can be of our greatest service. And that's how I like to use astrology and human design, is how can we translate this into helping you fulfill your purposes, to feel like every day is a devotional practice, and that you could be the best, biggest, most optimal version of yourself. So whether that's in your career, or whether that's in your relationships, or even finding the best places to live to feel most in your sovereign being and in your sacred service, this is the beauty of astrology and human design. So those are my main coaching tools that I use. And then we have these teachings. And do you want me to share the screen here, Sheila? I could just show this to people.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let me know. Do you see the browser?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so this is the training, Path of the Mystic, beginning a week from today, teachings and practices of non-duality. And the way that, again, I set this up at this time to honor these astrological cycles. And the intention is for us to get together 2 classes a month over the next 3 months. And they're going to be focused on one of these different mystical or non-dual traditions. And what we're going to do actually is a lot of practices. I'm much more into experiential teachings, and we didn't do a lot of that tonight, but we will in the class. And we're going to work with the Bhagavad Gita and Shaiva Tantra, which we talked both about tonight. That will be class 1 and 2. And then in the next segment, which are going to be in April, we'll be working with the Course in Miracles for those 2 classes. And then lastly, in May, for those 2 classes, we'll work with the Sufi mystical tradition of Islam. And you might know, of course, the poets like Rumi, the beautiful Sufi music. So we're really taking you through, how to see the interconnected, guidance from all of these traditions, but also helping you to, clear out the limiting beliefs, again, discipline yourself with spiritual practices, give you different possibilities, different ways that you can work with that divine energy in yourself every day. What makes this a little bit more unique is we're going to do, again, experiential practices and a lot of writing, because writing is slowing us down and getting us into a deeper kind of connection. So this will be, every class will be doing writing exercises around some of these teachings. We'll also be doing, of course, meditation, mantras, so chanting together, some breathwork journeys, some specific breathwork journeys for the different teachings, even a little bit of dance, movement to channel some of these energies, and then looking at some visionary art together, some spiritual art that can also be used as a contemplative way to enter into this merged non-dual state of consciousness. So I'm super excited about this. It's definitely been coming through. Here you'll see the full curriculum with the Gita, the Bhagavad Gita and Shaiva Tantra to begin, and talking a lot about devotion. And then we'll move here and you'll see A Course in Miracles. And so just in case you want to go to the link, let me make sure to put that in the chat here. So I want to make sure that you have that. Oh, I lost it. Sorry. There it is. So this. My website is divinetimingcoaching.com, and you'll see this at the top, but I'll also put in the chat the direct link. And I would love to invite you to this. There's a way that you can join all of the classes, and it's sliding scale. You can also add on a one-on-one coaching session with me. And you could also join just the first segment on the Bhagavad Gita. I am going to be donating some of the funds to the Turkey and Syria relief fund for the earthquakes that have happened there. So some of your offering for this class will go to that. And yeah, I'm excited to write together and to learn together through these incredible traditions. So if there's any questions about the teaching tonight or about this training, please let me know. And thanks again for your time. I know you could be doing many things tonight. So I think if anyone was interested as well in learning more about some of the readings, Sheila mentioned the StarSeed. Here's the different services in human design and astrology. When I work with the StarSeed astrology, one of the focuses of that is to actually work with some of these more mythical elements of your chart. Some of them have specifically to do with the stars that are in your chart. A lot of astrology isn't really astrology, it's planetology. It's people we work with the planets. But we've missed a whole realm, which are the stars. And the stars for millennia have had meanings in different traditions. But not only that, of course, many of you know from probably the Galactic Alliance or Portal to Ascension that we have the beings of the Pleiades and, the Orions and the Syrians and the Lyrians and the Vegans and all of these different races. And what's very interesting is to look at your astrological chart and to see that there are going to be specific star families, extra dimensional or extraterrestrial kinds of lineages that you have connection with, depending on the planets and where they are in your chart. What star systems they're connected to. And this is a really powerful way of weaving that greater storyline. We also work with the asteroids a lot, which have a lot of mythology to them, like Chiron is one, we said. But these are much more specific mythologies and stories that are in your chart every day. So an asteroid with your ascendant or your sun could really speak to a lot of your life path here. And it's very specific storyline. So I love working with the asteroids with people. All right. Any questions, feedback? We have any astrologers on the call here tonight?
Do you want to go ahead and stop screen share?
Oh yeah, sure.
All right. So let's go ahead. If anyone has any questions, and let's be mindful, we have quite a few people here. So if you have a question, please bring it forward. And I always like to ask Bridget, do we have any of our awake and ascending family asking questions?
Not right now. Nobody is asking questions. It seems like everyone is listening quite intently. But I have really enjoyed this, and I just want to say thank you, brother. This has been quite beautiful. And I am so activated in my starseededness, and I'm always so curious about what my chart says and if it correlates what I've already experienced and am currently experiencing. So yeah, I'm always interested in hearing more about those types of things. But yeah, this has been quite beautiful, and I love the way you're blending all of this in the oneness aspect. It's very beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Very nice.
It will be a really powerful, coming cycle for those of us who have planets like in Pisces, in Virgo, and Gemini, and Sagittarius, because Saturn is coming in, and Saturn will bring a sense of greater responsibility for you to be one of these spiritual emissaries, at this time, and however your sacred work is to do that. So if you do have planets in any of those 4 signs, you're going to get this, this kind of whip being cracked on you a bit from Saturn, who's demanding that you take a greater responsibility and accountability for your sacred work at this time.
Beautiful. Okay, Jewel, let's go ahead and bring you on up.
Thank you. VerDarLuz, thank you. A couple of I'm not a huge, I don't have a huge knowledge of astrology. I know that transiting Pluto is sitting on my natal Chiron right now. And so it's in the chrysalis stage of this, and hearing your explanation opened up. I've been listening to Melanie Reinhardt and her work with Chiron, and this is just so. Just perhaps a sort of practical question about the one-on-one counseling session that I saw that as part of the thing. Will you be referring somewhat to some astrology in that?
So what I offer is like ongoing coaching, 3 or 6 months. I do both like impact business coaching based off of your charts, human design and astrology. I also do more archetypal therapeutic type of coaching using your astrology and your human design. So I work ongoing with clients, and then I also do single sessions in astrology, in human design. I also focus on locational astrology, so helping people find the ideal place to live and travel to. So there's at least one personal consultation that we might turn into something else in the package, in the second you can choose an option for that. The main segment is the teachings every week, which aren't astrological in nature. They're the mystical teachings. Then if you want to
for the bottom line, the 405, that would include some consultation.
If you add that on in And Joel, I'm so glad you mentioned. I just want to mention one thing, because I mean it's huge, but there's just only so much time. But Pluto is moving into Aquarius this month, right? This is massive, because it's a 20-year cycle. We're talking about he's just leaving Capricorn of 15 years, and this is going to be again another big shift. I do have a YouTube channel, and I could put that in the link as well. If you want to follow, because I'll put a YouTube video about this soon. I have one on Saturn and Pisces, but this is really, really transformational for us in terms of understanding ourselves as part of this larger global community. It will affect us a lot around technology. I mean, AI has exploded in the last couple months. The way that we relate to machine and ourselves and that sort of self-reflective process is very much Pluto moving into Aquarius. But there's a lot to say about that. But definitely this shift again, those, with planets in Aquarius or Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, especially the early degrees, will start to feel this Pluto energy this year coming in, which will really ask for a deep catharsis, a deep purging and empowerment on the other side of surrender. That's the message of Pluto. Is the great mystery is what we want to make love to with Pluto. And so it's a lot about letting go and release. And on the other side of that is our greatest impact and power. So it's going to be a big transition for us as Pluto moves into Aquarius.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you very much, Jewel, for your question. Okay, Bridget, you have your hand up. Do you have some questions from the fam?
I do. Jason Paredes wants to know, or he says, please explain Chiron more.
Well, that we spent quite a lot of time, but essentially just Chiron is, so there, you could look at that mythically, you could look at that astrologically or astronomically. So it's a body in the sky that's like a planet and an asteroid. It's named after the Greek centaur, who was the known as the greatest of healers and mentors, and he taught the heroes and healers of Greece. He represents in all of us. In your birth chart, if I'm doing a reading with somebody, I'm looking at your Chiron, I'm looking at this doorway into where you felt most victimized, potentially most separated, and it's the same doorway you take to return to offer your service back. So I believe that Chiron is like a key, and its symbol looks like a key. It's a key for you to awaken to your higher self or to your higher purpose here. And in my second book, I talk about how it's a link for us moving out of the Piscean age into the Aquarian age, where we have to become ultimately self-responsible for everything that we do. We can't blame or say anyone else can save us like we were during the Piscean age. We have to really own all of our energies, all of our archetypes, and use them in service. And Chiron, and understanding your Chiron, is actually a really powerful key to doing that. It's often the place that I start when I'm working on a coaching level with somebody, because it has so much, it's like core medicine for someone.
Right. Like, for instance, mine is an Aries, right? Which means I have that inner self-doubt to overcome, right? With everything that I do, that especially big steps up in the world, right? So for anyone that has Aries, I'm sure you can speak more on that, but if you wanted to. But
yeah, so it sounds like you're in the Chiron return sort of windows at some point, but there's also more specifically the house that Chiron is in, that area of life experience, and the planets that Chiron is related to. So the different parts of your soul, those will be very, very specific to you. Whereas Chiron's sign is more generational. So when you're studying Chiron, you really want to see like, oh, is it with my Venus like opposite or square? Is it, is it in my 10th house of career or my 5th house of children? Or, and this is going to unpack again where the wound and the healing is going to be.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Wish I could see you. I can't see you here, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I don't see any more hands raised. Does anyone else have a question? Okay. All right, I don't see any more
Sheila,
hands.
can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you. Hello.
Sheila. Namaste.
Hello. Who is this?
Sheila, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
I don't know who that is. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know who that is. I don't see a hand raised.
It's
Sorry.
Babaji.
Babaji.
Okay, do you have a question?
I probably have a lot of questions. But
Okay, well, we have time for one.
yeah, one. Well, let me think about it. I noticed you guys spend a lot of time on astrology. And well, I've been on my spiritual trip for over 50 years, and I really haven't had any interest in it. And I think maybe it's just something that you'd like to play with. I don't know how important it is. I think the main thing is that you realize that we're all one being with different bodies. So right now I'm looking at one who's calling himself Owl, and I'm calling myself Babaji, and I'm sure he knows what Babaji is. So just to be honest with you, this is a one-on-one with Babaji. And I want to say I'm proud of you. I think that Shiva is my guy. I've done them all. Buddha and Krishna and God only knows, there's a whole list of them. Jesus was really one of my favorites. But they were just all me, right? They were just all you. There's only one. It's just us, on a stage acting out all this drama. And I really don't see a lot of use for the astrology. I see more use in just realizing that we're right here, right now. And so what? The moon is out there. I notice when it's full, I get more energy. There's no doubt. I like watching Jupiter and Venus recently. They've been really close, now that it seems like they've moved on. I noticed there were like 6 planets in a row, which was really incredible. So yeah, I like to look at the sky. I like Orion and the Pleiades. And
Okay. Do you have a question?
Yeah. My question is, why do you guys spend so much time with astrology? Because it's really not getting you anywhere. You need to spend more time realizing that we're right here, right now, and we're responsible for our actions. And it's not going to matter about the moon or the sun or the rest of the
thank you so much for sharing your viewpoint.
Yeah. But just a minute. I'm just going to say, look, namaste. I love you. And I'd like to talk to this guy on his terms. So why don't you give him my information and we'll get together someday. Thank you very much. Om Namah Shivaya.
Okay.
I just want to reflect one thing there. I really appreciate Babaji's offering, because I know that I was a big skeptic of astrology until I studied it deeply and had a few really powerful readings. And then I saw that it was describing a lot of my patterns. And then I studied the history of astrology, and I realized that it was the oldest science practiced in every part of the world, including the ancient Sumerian, Egyptian, Incan, Mayan, Chinese, Vedic cultures. So we have the oldest science, and it's a science that describes the patterns of behavior. And so you can use it if you find it helpful, and if you don't, then don't use it. But it is there. It's a language that can help you quite a bit. So I just offer that. It's been a great teacher in my life and for those I've worked with. So I was going to offer a song at the end, but I don't know if we have time for that.
We do. Beautiful. Okay. Thank you.
I'll just get the guitar right here. Let's see if you can I share? Okay. So let me know if you can hear the guitar okay. 1 second. Okay.
Okay, we don't see the image up.
There's no image. It's just.
Oh, okay.
I just changed the audio settings for.
Oh, beautiful. Okay.
Can you hear it okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I wanted to leave tonight with a mantra for Saraswati. Some of you may know that she's the goddess of wisdom and music in the Hindu tradition. And she's a goddess I've worked with for a long time as a musician and teacher. So I'm going to give her Gayatri mantra. This is a longer form of her mantra in this devotional song to her. And you're welcome to just journey. You could close your eyes, you can dance, just let the music move through you. And if something channels through, definitely write it down, move it. All right. Aho. Saraswatai Namaha.
That was absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for being here with us. And you guys can all be jealous because I've got an appointment with him tomorrow. So so if everybody, I'll tell you how it goes. Okay. So I'm really excited to meet with you tomorrow. That's going to be a lot of fun. And it's always fun to have you guys here. Oh, Brandon has a question real quick before we get ready to sign off. Let me go ahead and bring you up, Brandon. Hey.
Hi. Thank you very much. Your music was beautiful and I enjoyed the presentation. You have a very soothing voice for this whole thing. I just wanted to make a comment about the astrology thing. To me, astrology is like a map and like a skeleton template, like in the sense to where, say if you were lost in the forest and you didn't have a map, you could always ask for directions. You could always probably figure your way through. But having the astrology like a map is essentially the map, and it's giving you the way to where you need, where you can go, what your options are, but you're not bound by it. A lot of people think they're bound by these things. You're a free will individual. You don't have to follow them, but they're just literally a map for you, So that's the way I see it.
I really appreciate that. Thank you for that. I always describe it as a map. Yeah. And I also, I put in the chat, if anyone wants to check out some more music, there's a link to the music there. So you can, there's ambient soundscapes for meditation, and there's also guitar, and we'll be using a lot of the music for our class as well. So just want to thank you all again for your time tonight, and hope you'll join Path of the Mystic, or maybe we'll see you in a session soon. And just so much love, and hope you can embody these spiritual practices in whatever way feels great for you at this time.
Beautiful. Thank you. And VerDarLuz, can you go ahead and put your contact information in the chat so that people can visit your website? Again, I know you've put it in. I haven't been keeping up with the chat, but okay, great. Thank you so much.
There we go.
Okay, awesome. All right. Well, another beautiful show. Thank you so much for, sharing this information. I felt like I really had my soul fed tonight. So I appreciated the vibration, and just like Brandon was saying, the tonality of your voice. It has such a beautiful resonance to it that as you speak the words, it's more than just hearing the words. It's that vibration coming in and kind of, like I said, feeding our soul. That's the way that I felt. So thank you again for being here. We'd love to have you to come back sometime. I'll tell you guys all about my reading. And if you have not signed up to be on the Galactic Alliance mailing list, please do so. You can go to thegalacticalliance.org and sign up. And until next week, I wish you much love and namaste. So have a beautiful week, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Good
Good
night.
night. We love you.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
everybody.
Blessings.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.